And I have no objection to that, Your Honor. Brian, if you can hear me right now, if your sister or your parents are in the same room as you, will you have them leave and shut the door?
Okay.
Okay.
Get down.
All right, we are now live streaming. Shannon, you can put us on the record.
Okay.
This is a matter of dental versus dental. Mr. Kirkpatrick is here on behalf of the plaintiff, Mr. Fallahy on behalf of the defendant, and both of the parties are present. For the record, I will indicate if there are other witnesses in the room with either, they need to leave and they need to be in a place where they cannot hear the testimony and are not trying to watch the live stream. Expect full compliance with that. Counsel, anything preliminary, or do either of you wish to make some kind of an opening statement?
Your Honor, I don't wish to make an opening statement. I think we can get what we need through the proofs.
Your Honor, I would agree. I'd waive an opening statement as well. I had emailed to your staff and to Mr. Kirkpatrick a minute ago just a couple of exhibits I plan to admit. I don't know if there'd be a stipulation by Mr. Kirkpatrick. That might save us a little bit of time if possible, but if not, I understand.
I do have the exhibits.
Your Honor, I looked at them. There are a couple of photographs and it looks like a handwritten note, and I would have no objection to the admission of those documents or those exhibits.
All right, they are marked as a single exhibit. I'm sorry. There's an exhibit A with photographs and exhibit B is the note. I'll have Shannon mark these, and based on the stipulation, exhibits A and B are admitted.
Thank you, Your Honor.
Mr. Kirkpatrick?
Your Honor, I would call my client, Miss Dental.
Ms. Dental, would you raise your right hand, please? You do swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
I do.
You put your hand down, just state your full name for the record, please.
Emily Beth Dental.
Go ahead, Mr. Kirkpatrick.
Miss Dental, you're familiar with a Brian Dental, correct?
Yes.
And who is Brian Dental?
My ex-husband.
And then the two of you were divorced on March 12th of 2020, is that correct?
Yes.
And that was here in the county of Jackson before the Honorable Judge LaFlamme, correct?
It was.
When were the two of you married?
March 2009.
And when you were married in March of 2009, where were you residing at?
Oklahoma.
Were you married in the state of Oklahoma?
We were.
And how long did you reside in the state of Oklahoma before you moved to Michigan?
6 years. We moved in 2015.
Okay, so from 2009, the year that you were married, until 2015, you had resided in the state of Oklahoma. Is that correct?
Yes.
You have two minor children.
Yes.
Are they biological children or adopted children?
They're both adopted.
And could you, one of them is Lacey, correct?
Yes.
And when's her birthday?
June 17th, 2012.
And then the other child is Wesley, is that correct?
Yes, it is.
And when's his birthday?
March 29th, 2013.
And when were these children adopted, if you recall?
They both finalized about 2 years after we got custody of them. So Lacey, we finalized in 2014, and Wesley we finalized in 2015.
Were both of those adoptions, did they both occur in Oklahoma?
They did.
And were they both through the Oklahoma courts?
They were.
So there came a point in time after your marriage that you and Mr. Dental decided to move to the state of Michigan. Do you recall that?
Yes.
And I think you testified a minute ago that was 2015.
It was.
And what was the reason why the two of you moved to the state of Michigan?
He got a job in Michigan that was in the field of the study, non-destructive testing. that was better pay than what he was making there. It was an improvement in our financial situation, and his family lives up here, so we would still be close to family. I understood that he had a supportive family, that they did a lot together, which to some degree they do. And yeah, so that was it.
Okay. What extended family does he have here in the state of Michigan?
Here he has his parents, his sister lives here with her family. He's got some aunts and uncles, cousins.
Okay. So when you moved here in 2015, you were under the assumption that you were going to have a strong family unit based upon his side of the family. Is that what your testimony is?
Yes.
The job that he had received, did he keep that job?
He did not.
How long did he have that job after you moved here in 2015?
I think 2 months.
Did he get another job shortly thereafter?
He did. He got a job at a wood mill shortly after. In fact, I didn't realize he was applying for it. He just stopped and visited with them and came home and had a different job one day.
So was the pay for that new job better or worse than what you had initially moved to Michigan for?
It was less.
Was it considerably less?
Yes.
Okay. So from you move here in 2015. Both of the kids go to school here in Jackson?
Yes.
And where do they go to school at?
Wesley's at Lyle Torrent in Jackson County, and Lacey's at Grass Lake, where I teach.
Okay. And what grade is Lacey in?
Lacey is in 3rd grade.
And then what grade is Wesley in?
He's in an autistic classroom, and if he was in a grade, it would be 2nd.
Okay. So, and you're a school teacher.
Mm-hmm.
You gotta say yes or no, unfortunately.
Oh, sorry. Yes.
Okay. And you work for the Grass Lake School District?
I do.
Okay. You talked about Wesley for a minute. Is Wesley a special needs child?
Wesley is special needs. He's nonverbal autistic. We got him tested a few years ago so that we could make sure he had the right support system that he needs.
Okay. So you stated before that he's in a special class. Is that at Grass Lake? Or you said Torrent, I'm sorry.
It's at Torrent. It's in the county. It's in the ISD. So it's not necessarily Grass Lake. It's for all of Jackson County.
And is that predominantly for children with learning disabilities or autism?
Yes, it's not, and not just learning disabilities. It's children with autism or other special needs. Most kids with just regular learning disabilities stay in their schools.
Okay. So this is specifically for autism and individuals or children that are nonverbal. Is that correct?
Yes.
When you mean nonverbal, what do you mean by nonverbal?
He doesn't have any verbal vocabulary. He makes noises and he can speak, but he doesn't speak. He had out a vocabulary of 20 words at about 15 to 18 months. He didn't continue using those words. So to communicate with him is a nonverbal situation. You have to pay attention to his gestures, to his wants. He's got a communication board that he uses to communicate, but he doesn't speak words.
Does he have any other diagnosed mental issues or learning issues other than the autism?
No, that's all that he's got currently.
Okay. Does he treat for that? Does he go to therapy? Does he see doctors? Anything along those lines?
He was in therapy, but it was too much. There's not a therapy close to where we live or where I work. It was in Jackson, and that was before we were divorced. Brian would take him to therapy, and then it was also before he started school. When he started school, they offer OT, PT, speech. They offer all of those therapies in school, so we didn't feel the need to continue the outside therapy as well.
Okay. During the time that the two of you were married, who predominantly took care of the medical, dental needs of the minor children?
I schedule everything. Brian did help in taking them to some things, but that's predominantly my job. I've always scheduled their appointments, kept track of when they were, made sure that they got their medications if they had any.
The two of you divorced again, that was March 12th of 2020, is that correct?
Yes.
But March 12th of 2020, when the two of you separated, or actually strike that, the two of you separated prior to the entry of the judgment of divorce.
Yes.
Do you recall about when the two of you separated?
August of 2019.
So from August of 2019 to present, who has been the primary provider for the minor children as it pertains to the treatment of specifically Wesley?
Me.
Who has set up the appointments for Wesley?
I have. I make sure he has therapeutic items in the house. So he has a chew. He chews a lot. I make sure and have those. He's got a weighted vest that I've purchased so that he has all of his therapy items in the house. I communicate with the teachers. Me.
To your knowledge, does Mr. Dental, and I'm talking specifically from the date that the two of you separated in October of 2019 to present, has Mr. Dental been involved with the schools?
He was last year. He was. This year, he kept saying he wasn't getting emails. Apparently, somehow they got an email for him that he never checks. So he wasn't getting much communication from them. Checking to make sure that they were communicating with him.
So over the last year, how much involvement did he have with the children's schooling, both Lacey and Wesley, if you could explain to the court?
Well, I also was doing their virtual learning and their homework with them. Wesley was virtual for, oh goodness, most of October, all of November, and all of December. So I had the person that I was paying to watch him while I was at work was making sure that he was doing his paperwork and homework at school or at home some. We sure didn't do as much as they would send, but we did as much as we could. I made sure to get him on his virtual classes when I was at home. Which were Wednesdays. We were virtual Wednesday, so they had virtual meetings every Wednesday.
You talked about that you were working during this time period as well.
Yeah. Yes.
And you talked about having to hire or pay somebody to assist you with, was it just with Wesley or both of them?
Some of both, but mostly with Wesley.
And did you ask Mr. Dental for support with that?
I did. So before school started in August, we knew that it was not going to be a normal year. We got word that Wesley would only be in school 2 days a week, and I was to be in school face-to-face 4 days a week. We were all home virtual on Wednesday. So in early August, before school started, I started asking Brian if he could talk to his family maybe about somebody helping out with watching Wesley. I asked what we were going to do. I said I was really nervous about how this year was going to go because I didn't know. At that point, we had no idea about work, how I would take days off, if Wesley needed somebody to watch him. I don't have extended family here. I wasn't sure until about a week and a half before school started, if we would even have somebody to watch Wesley. Yeah.
So over this past year, how much help has Mr. Dental given you in assisting with schooling or assisting with taking care of Wesley or Lacey during the week when you had to work? So
in the year total, he's given me a total of $600. He gave me $200 every single time after I called and pretty much begged that we needed money because I couldn't afford to keep paying a sitter. And he has watched the kids, watched Wesley 2 school days that he was virtual.
I'm sorry, you broke up on the number of days.
2.
So out of this entire school year, he's actually helped you out on 2 separate occasions regarding virtual school?
Mm-hmm. It was Thursday and a Friday. No, it was a Monday and a Tuesday because it was right before my surgery.
Okay. So, but other than that, you've had no assistance from Mr. Dental regarding the virtual schooling or any schooling issues?
No.
And how much were you having to pay for assistance? And Your Honor, I'm not asking for money here, just so the court's aware. I'm just kind of getting into what assistance may or may not have been done. What were you actually having to pay for Wesley to be watched on average?
So I paid $90 a day because she was here. So the person that I had babysit just finished nursing school this summer, and I wanted her to not go to nursing school and to continue to take time off for Wesley. I paid $90 a day. No, $80 a day. I'm sorry. I paid $80 a day for her to watch him. It started out as just being 2 days a week, which was not fun, but I could make that work. But as the year went on, again, most of October, all of November and December, he was home 5 days a week. I was home Wednesdays, so I just had her on Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, but there were some Wednesdays that I had to be at work as well for professional development or just so I could catch up on grading because I was behind with just everything. And so occasionally she would watch both of them on Wednesday.
So she was watching them about 4 days a week?
Wesley, yes.
At $80 a day?
Yeah.
And over this time period, you've received $600 help from Mr. Dental?
Yes.
Was he aware that you were struggling maintaining your employment and Wesley's need for virtual schooling?
Yes, I would call and ask him for help. I called crying. I've cried in front of him several times over the last year. And even before school started, I was really nervous about how this was going to work because they were saying that we wouldn't be able to, we would have to use all of our sick days if we were going to stay home with the kids, which I've had to use several sick days. Even since Christmas, I don't have a sitter like I did before because she got a job. She doesn't start for another couple weeks, but she's got things to take care of before that starts. And the kids have been sent virtual. Wesley's been twice. He had 3 full days right after spring break and then 1 day last week on Monday. Lacey was sent virtual for a week. And I asked him if he knew about that, and his response was yes, but not once in those 3 instances did he ask me what the plan was. Did he ask me if I needed help? Did he offer any help? And so, yeah, it's been a difficult year, and I've asked him a lot for assistance that I.
Do you have any extended family here in Michigan?
No, I do not.
Do you have any family members whatsoever that live in the state of Michigan?
Not to my knowledge.
Okay.
No.
Your family, the majority of your extended family is in Oklahoma?
They are.
And again, that's where the 2 of you met and married?
Yes.
And so regarding Mr. Dental's family, have they reached out to try and assist you at all over this past year?
No. In fact, before school started, I asked him, his sister homeschools, and I asked if maybe she could watch Wesley 1 day a week at all. It took him 2 weeks to finally call her and ask her. The answer was no, which is what it is. But no, they've reached out to Lacey to talk to Lacey, but they haven't asked if I need any help. They haven't asked how we're doing. Nothing.
Since the separation in October of 2019, how often that you know of has the extended family been involved with the minor children?
That I know of, before COVID, I think that they were there. So Brian was living with his parents at the family farm, and his sister would go and spend time there. So I'm sure that they saw each other at least 1 weekend a month. I know they don't always end up being there the same time our kids are there. But since COVID hit, they haven't done as much. Brian was living with his parents, so the kids would see their grandparents, except that they decided that the kids needed to not come over for a while. And I know that his siblings, he's got a brother that lives in Arizona, that his siblings were discouraging him from having the kids at his parents' house. We were totally quarantined. They'd even spent spring break at his parents' house, and then they said the kids couldn't come over for 2 weeks after that. Okay. So there has not been as much interaction since then. I know since the weather's gotten nice that the kids do stuff outside. But although his parents are vaccinated, as he's told me, the kids are still not allowed into their house. So they stay outside or in his trailer where he's living.
So he's living in a trailer. He lives in a trailer at his parents' home.
Yep. He was living with his parents when school started. Our kids were no longer allowed to come over because they were sort of in school. Didn't last long for Wesley, but I understand that. So Brian would come over here for visits, and I would let him stay here to visit, or he'd take them to the park in town. I also understand from him that he wasn't telling his family that he was coming over because he wasn't supposed to be around them, but because of the virus, I'm not sure about that. But he got a trailer in October. I believe it was in late September, October, but the kids couldn't stay in it. It didn't have running water at first. When it did have running water and they were staying there, the toilet wasn't quite working. And so they would have to go into grandparents' house to use the bathroom. And since then, since everything is working and fixed, I'm under the impression that the kids aren't going into grandparents' house at all, that they see the cousins and they see grandparents outside some, but not to the extent that it was before.
Okay. Pursuant to the judgment of divorce on March 12th of 2020, what parenting time was Mr. Dental afforded as a result of that judgment of divorce?
He got every other weekend and one visit day a week. That changes based on who's got the weekend. If it's my weekend, he gets Monday. If it's his weekend, he gets the next Wednesday. And then he insisted on 5 weeks over the summer.
Well, is your order 5 weeks, or is it every other week on, week off in the summer?
I think it's 5 weeks.
Your Honor, if I may just look at the judgment real quick. Ms. Dental, if I were to tell you that the judgment of divorce says that the parties have week on, week off in the summertime, would you have any reason to dispute that?
Actually, I would, because he insisted on 5 weeks. Because that was the amount of time that he would have vacation from his work. So that's why I said 5 weeks. I'm pretty sure it was 5. Week on and week off might be 5 weeks though. Okay. Summer's not quite as long as it used to be.
So, Your Honor, I would just ask the court to take judicial notice of the file regarding the judgment of divorce. I believe on page 8 of the divorce, on the paragraph, the parties shall exercise parenting time week on, week off during the entire summer.
I will take judicial notice of the entire file.
Thank you, Your Honor. So, Ms. Dental, let's talk about the parenting time regarding the summertime. And I know you have summer under your belt because you just got divorced last year, but did Mr. Dental exercise his parenting time week on, week off last summer?
No, because he said he was out of vacation time. He had the kids for spring break last year. He said he didn't have enough time to do that. And so we discussed the possibility of him having extended weekends, which was the plan. So he put in for days at work, but he he says that they messed up the days at work, but he was never able to get the days off or his vacation listed from them. But it didn't work. I had to reschedule things all the time. And because we were put on quarantine from them, there would be weeks that he wouldn't be able to take them. We did go visit my parents in mid-July, so they were home with me for 2 weeks, and then he had them for a week, almost a week, right before school started, but he did not have every other week.
So the week, he had him a week before school started. Other than that, was he doing every other weekend, or what was he doing as far as parenting time was concerned through the summer?
It was most weekends, and some of them were extended, but so, and I could get my calendar because it's crazy and marked up. We had planned that every other weekend he would pick them up Thursday and have them Friday, Saturday, and Sunday, and sometimes he would have them Monday. But because of how either the days were put in from his work or they interpreted that and he was never able to figure that out, it ended up not working that way. So I would say no, because there were weeks that he didn't take them at all no, he didn't have them.
Okay.
Yeah.
The move that you're asking the court to allow for you to do, where is that going to be to?
To Tulsa, Oklahoma.
And is that where the two of you resided prior to moving to Michigan in 2015?
Yes, it is.
And who resides in Tulsa, Oklahoma?
My parents, my aunts and uncles, a huge extended group of friends that I have friends here, but there we had a home. We were members of a church. We never managed to find a church here that we both agreed on. And then I just didn't do it with COVID going.
Go ahead. I'm sorry.
Nope. So I participate with the home church still in Tulsa virtually because they've been posting all their services for the last year. I'm still in touch with my friends back there. So I have a larger support group to help with when things need done, like childcare, or we'll be staying with my parents to begin with. The house next door to them, the owner has said that she would be interested in selling to me without going through a realtor and without putting it fully on the market. So we would be able to live right next door to my parents. You'd suggested I look a little bit closer into looking at a job, but I have
we'll get to all that. Let me just.
Oh, okay. Sorry.
Yeah, I'll get to all that. I promise.
Okay.
So your parents reside in Tulsa, and there's a home that is for sale next door to them.
Yes.
Is that a home that's in your price range, something you'd be able to afford?
It should be, yes.
Okay. How many bedrooms is it? How many baths is it?
It's 4 bedrooms and 3 bathrooms.
And is it right next door to your parents?
It is.
And do you believe, did you talk to your parents about wanting to make this move?
Yes.
Did you talk to them about maybe needing help with daycare or those kinds of things while you're working and the children are in school?
Yes, I did. And they're willing to
Was there
assist
any?
me.
Okay. Do they have some medical issues though? Does one of your parents have some medical issues?
Yes. My dad's got medical issues.
Okay.
He had a stroke a few years ago and he's doing better, but he's not what he was beforehand. His back is bothering him. There's a list of things that happen when you get to be 78, I think that.
Do you think
but when we go visit, he participates with the kids. He plays games with Lacey. He was teaching her Chinese checkers when we were there for spring break.
Okay. And what about your mother?
Mom is okay. She has she's got a few other issues. She also thinks that she might have had a mini stroke recently, but they don't have any. Everything on her medical scans looks fine and she's doing better.
Do the children have a close relationship with your mother and father?
They do. We Zoom, we FaceTime. I got them a portal for Christmas. And so we do that so kids can see them on the TV, and they can see us on the TV. Sometimes there are technical difficulties when we start, but we all manage to work out. Wesley will walk through the room and stop and pay attention or look at them. He'll go kiss the camera. When we're there, he recognizes them and knows who they are and participates with them.
Okay. You testify that you're a school teacher at Grass Lake. Did you look at employment opportunities in Oklahoma?
I did.
And what did you find out?
So I was never in doubt that I would be able to find a job. Tulsa Public Schools, where I worked previously, I left on good terms with them. They always need teachers. I contacted a friend on Thursday last week, and she has 2 principals lined up for me to speak to about a position. One of them is in the school that is in the neighborhood that my parents would live in and that I would like to purchase the home in. I finished my application. I got it all submitted. Now it's just waiting for the people who are doing the references to send that in. But she's already exchanged contact information for me with these principals.
Is there a reason why you haven't locked a job into Tulsa at this point?
Because I didn't know if I was going. I didn't, without knowing for sure.
I wanted the court to hear that there are job opportunities, but obviously until you get permission, you're not going to actually accept an offer. Is that what you're testifying to?
Yes, it's not. Teaching is. It wouldn't be fair for me to take a placement from someone else before I know for sure that I'm moving.
Okay. And you said that one of the schools that you were looking at that you have a chance of getting a job at is actually in the school district that your parents' home and the home that you're looking at purchasing is in? So
it's 2 minutes away as a drive from the house that I am interested in my parents' home. Patrick Henry is the elementary, and it's just right there where they live. The city of Tulsa is broken up into sections. There's 27 elementaries. They each have a neighborhood that surrounds them. This elementary school that the position is available in is in my parents' neighborhood. So it would be perfect.
Okay. And would that be the school that Lacey would go to?
It is, which would make it even easier. I wouldn't have to fill out paperwork or change where she went or have to drop her off somewhere else. We would be in the same building.
Regarding Wesley, have you looked into schooling for Wesley with the understanding that he's special needs due to the autism?
I have, and I'm looking into more of what Tulsa Public Schools has, but I'm really leaning towards a private school. It's called Town and Country, and it is specifically for children with special needs, autism, Down syndrome, a whole spectrum of a list of special needs. They offer price breaks and scholarships. I, again, would have filled out the paperwork, but without knowing that would be taking another child's place if we weren't able to go. I wasn't feeling comfortable doing that before we got the okay to go, but if we get the okay, then I'll be filling his application out and put that in and begin that process. We have some friends who have a child that's autistic that goes there and they think it is excellent. So that will be my goal.
You have friends in Tulsa that also have an autistic child?
Yes.
Are you close with them?
Yes.
Has Wesley interacted with that child with autism?
Yes, but he just graduated from high school, so there's quite a bit of an age gap there. But yeah.
Would they be a resource of information for you, for Wesley, based upon what they've gone through and what Wesley is going through as far as resources available in Tulsa?
Yes, she's been a great help with possible doctors. I'm not as concerned about a doctor as I am concerned about a dentist. And she's got a list of a couple that would be really good for Wesley that would work with him.
So dentist, is that a problem, Wesley?
Yes. So I took him a little over a year ago for the first time, and it was not pretty. There was lots of screaming, lots of fighting, lots of agitation. They had to strap him. They had this board that has Velcro on it that they had to hold him down so that his hands wouldn't constantly, and we didn't. And I still, even with the board, I still had to physically hold his legs down. They did just a quick check. It wasn't probably about half the time that Lacey spends at the dentist, but it was difficult. So this last time they gave him Valium beforehand. So he had that, and it was a much easier process when we went this time.
And who's the one taking him to these dentist appointments?
Me.
You talked about the children. I'm sorry. You talked, yeah, both children were adopted in Oklahoma.
Yes.
And I guess I'm going to hear this answer for the first time right now. I don't know the answer to it, but I asked you to check into if there's any other programs that are available because children were actually adopted in the state of Oklahoma. Is there anything in Oklahoma that they can receive that they can't receive here because they were adopted there?
Yes. They've aged out of most of those services because they're over 6. A lot of those services would have been oriented towards daycare and childcare, but there are programs, and there's respite care that that we could assist, which is also, respite care would be childcare, but it would be like a day off. Sometimes respite care can be as long as a weekend. There are therapy groups that we can join. There are support groups that we can join. When I asked about those upon moving to Michigan, I was told that since they were not adopted here, they were not applicable for those programs.
Okay. So you believe that that would also be better for the children, having those programs available to the state?
I do. We also have a post-adoption worker there that I'm in contact with at least yearly, but lately I've been in contact with her more, that can help find different programs and different assistances. Again, when I asked for that assistance when we moved here from Oklahoma, I was told that since they were adopted in Oklahoma, all that they would receive here would be the healthcare services, and that's it.
Would the fact that they were adopted in Oklahoma, would there be any type of funding or any type of money available to help pay for that private school that you're looking at for Wesley?
It's possible, but more than likely, just my pay in general, the fact that he is special needs, they offer a scholarship for everyone. It's not, if that makes sense, there's a price break for everyone. I don't know that from the people that we know that their child goes there, as far as I can tell, there are very few people who actually pay the full tuition. There are groups that have money set aside to help.
Your Honor, I would object at this point. It sounds like this testimony is related to hearsay, and unless we have somebody here to speak from the school, I don't think that it would be allowed for her to testify about this unless she has firsthand knowledge.
Well, Your Honor,
I think here. Go ahead.
I'm sorry, Your Honor, I didn't mean to interrupt the court. I was going to say, if she's researched it and she's a parent looking for schooling and she's looking at tuition and she's seen it with her own eyes firsthand, she could testify. But if she's hearing it from somebody else, then I would defer to the court on a ruling for that.
I thought I heard her say she heard this from other parents that she spoke with, which would clearly be hearsay.
I'll move on. Are you asking the court to allow you to move to Oklahoma because you do not want these children, you do not want Mr. Dillon involved in these children's lives?
No.
Have you tried to assist in facilitating extra parenting time?
Actually, I have. We have a couple 3-day weekends during the year that I asked him that fell on his weekends, that I asked if he wanted to take the kids for Monday so he could have a little bit of extra time with him. He said yes to one, and then he said no to the next because he didn't have enough time to take off. He said he only had 3 weeks of paid vacation and that he would only be able to take them for 2 weeks over the summer because he needed some of that time to help with harvesting or so I have offered some, but because of his work schedule, he has said no.
So if the court were to allow for you to move to the state of Oklahoma, would you continue the contact between the minor children and Mr. Bell?
Yes. Yes.
And what type of proposed parenting time would you propose to the court to give him extended time?
Well, he already has half of the Christmas break, which I'm happy to keep that going. He's got every other spring break. I would be willing to try for every spring break, but I don't know that as they get older, they won't want to take school trips. Lacey, especially. Wesley might not at some point. Since I understood that he wanted 5 weeks over the summer, but I know that he doesn't have that time. I'd considered a couple weeks at the beginning of the summer, a couple weeks at the end of the summer, but all of that is negotiable. Whatever works best with his work schedule and that he can make happen. And I'm willing to bring them up. We can meet halfway. I can bring them. I want him to be a part of their lives, but Lacey wants him to do FaceTiming often, and he's recently started doing that, but she would love to do that. She does that with her Mimi and Papa. Yeah, I don't want him to not, he is their father. But
so if he wanted every spring break, he could have every spring break.
Yeah.
And if he wanted the majority of the summer, he could have the majority of the summer.
Yes.
And if he wanted the majority of the holiday break, provided you at least get Christmas Eve or Christmas Day, that you would work with him getting extended time over the holiday season.
Yes.
If he wanted to continue with FaceTime or Zoom or any other type of communication, would you facilitate that?
Yes, I've always encouraged, I wanted him to Zoom more. I understand he's not techie. But yes, always. I'm gonna get, no, that's gonna do, so.
And obviously the children are in Oklahoma, you're in Michigan, and Wesley is special needs. So I guess it's safe to say there's no way these children are ever gonna fly on a plane without you, correct?
Not without me, no. Mm-mm.
Are you willing to either if Mr. Dental has an issue with transportation, are you willing to either drive the children up here all the way to Michigan for that parenting time, so that he can exercise parenting time when it's ordered through the court?
If that's what we need to do, yes.
Or alternatively, if it's easier for you to fly, you would fly with the children, meet him at the airport, and then fly back up to get them when the parenting time was over?
Yes.
And there's an expense to that, correct?
I do.
But do you think that the expense of that is outweighed by the expense of your daycare?
Oh, for sure.
A daycare that you're not receiving any assistance from Mr. Dental on?
Yeah. Yes.
You testified a little earlier too that the individual that you had been using was going to nursing school.
She finished over the summer.
So is she no longer available to assist you with virtual learning or daycare?
She's not. She applied for a position and got it. And so she'll begin. I'm not sure. I think she starts in a week or so.
Okay.
So the last couple times that we've done virtual, since spring break, the first 3 days after spring break, she was able to help me in the mornings, but I had to take off a half a day each of those days to go to take care of Wesley. And then the second time Wesley was out, she wasn't able to help with that at all. So I took care of all the time. And then when Lacey was virtual, I was too, but I was requested to work at school if I could find childcare. She was not available to work for that, so I had to do all my virtual teaching from home.
Okay. And again, if you're able to move, your family would be able to help you with all of that.
Yes, they would.
And pursuant to the judgment, just a couple more things. I'm almost done, Your Honor. A couple more things on the the custody factors. You have physical custody, correct?
Yes.
He has every other weekend parenting time.
Yes.
And are you the one that predominantly does the shopping for the children? And what I mean by that is school shopping, clothes shopping, things along those lines.
Yes.
Do you ever receive any clothes from Mr. Dental? Does he send clothes when they're with you, or are you the one that always sends clothes when they go with dad?
He has clothes there. I just got done. I got a bunch of hand-me-downs from a friend that were for Lacey. So I sent him probably 2 trash bags full of clothes for her. So she's got clothes. Wesley's clothes that he has are getting a little small, but they're there for the weekends.
Just a couple other questions. How do you show your children affection? Do your children love you, and if so, how do you know that?
Well, Lacey's a snuggler. She loves to sit and snuggle. She tells me that a lot. She tells us all that a lot. She's just a lover. Wesley enjoys his snuggles too. So Wesley, with his part of his autism, is he does not sleep well at night. I sleep with him. He has to touch me physically. I'll wake up with a foot on my leg or a foot in my face, but he's always touching me somehow. I get kisses and hugs. We have our daily routines and our bedtime routines where we read books and we do all the, I don't know.
What do you do for
dinner? From Lacey often about how much she loves me, about how much she misses Mimi and Papa.
What do you do for discipline?
I'm sorry, what?
If the children need to be disciplined, what do you do?
Well, Wesley doesn't do timeouts. With him, it's a lot of redirection. There's a lot of redirection with Wesley. With Lacey, she's not the best at timeouts either. We do a lot of talking. She doesn't like it because I make her sit and we have to talk. They're actually both pretty good. We don't have a lot of discipline. Lacey does get, when she gets tired, she gets cranky and she gets yelling. Her feelings get hurt often. She cries. So there's lots of conversations, lots of snuggling.
Do you know what your income will be if you get that job in Tulsa?
I don't have a set number because I taught there for 10 years and I have 16 years of experience. I'm not sure what years of experience would transfer. But when I put it, they have a little calculator on their website that you put in your years of experience and your stuff, and it came out to be pretty much what I made.
I object, Your Honor. I object to this as well. This is all based on hearsay and information that I'm not able to cross-examine on. It's not based on any firsthand knowledge. I don't think a calculator on the website is something appropriate to testify to, unless she has someone planning to testify from the Tulsa School District who can specifically say what amount of money she'd be making.
Your Honor, I think she would have firsthand knowledge. She's going on a website for a place that she can get a job. She's punching in a calculator that's set forth for individuals to determine what their income is going to be. She put in the calculations appropriately, and it advises her of what the income. And the problem too, Your Honor, is we're in a spot where she can't take the job. She's not going to go out and presuppose that this court's going to allow for her to move and take a job and get her whole benefits package. And then, just like what she said, take away a position from somebody else. The court does not allow for the move. And now she's taken the spot. I don't think it's hearsay. She's got personal knowledge of what she inputted into the system and what it spit out as far as an income is concerned.
I'm going to allow the testimony.
Thank you, Your Honor. So do you know about roughly what your salary will be based upon those calculations you put into the computer?
It said that it would be $52,000. And I will be honest, I don't know if that's correct, but for years of service of teaching, for the degrees that I have, that's what the school's website gave me.
What degrees do you have?
I've got a bachelor's in early childhood. I have a master's in math education, and I currently hold my national board certification.
So based upon your income, and then also, do you get a stipend from this? Is it from the state of Oklahoma for the adoption?
Yes,
And that comes from the state of Oklahoma?
it does.
And how much is that a month?
It's $1,200 a month.
And you were awarded that in the judgment because you got custody of the children, correct?
Yes.
So between that and your income, is there any question in your mind whether you'd be able to provide support for the minor children?
No.
And then you also receive some child support from Mr. Dental, correct?
Yes,
And
$300 a month.
he pays his child support on time, correct?
It comes out of his check, so it's an automatic deduction and deposit.
Are you originally from Oklahoma?
I am.
Born and raised in Oklahoma?
Yes.
Were you born and raised in Tulsa?
Yes.
Did you grow up in the house that your mom and dad live in right now?
No, I wish. They bought this house about 20 years ago, after we were all adults.
So, and up until 2015, for all intents and purposes, you've been an Oklahoma resident your whole life?
No, I did live in St. Louis for about 7 years in the 90s.
Okay.
But
that's it. So 7 years in the 90s in St. Louis, but other than that, it's been Oklahoma.
I did live overseas for about 9 months. I'm not sure that really, I wasn't a resident there, so.
Anything in your history, any mental health issues that affect your ability to care for your children?
No.
Any criminal history on your part?
No.
Ever been accused of assaulting your children or any children?
No.
Ever been subject to an abuse and neglect investigation?
No.
And do you believe that the move to Tulsa, Oklahoma is not only in your best interest, but also the best interest of your children?
I do.
And is that based upon your testimony here today?
It is.
And are you asking the court to allow for you to make the move to Tulsa, Oklahoma with the children?
I am.
Your Honor, I have no further questions.
Mr. Falley?
Thank you, Your Honor. Ms. Dentel, at the current time, the children's father, my client, I'm just going to refer to him as Brian. Is it okay if I call you Emily?
Yes.
All right. Emily, so as of right now, every 2 weeks, there are 6 days during the school year where Brian has the children for at least some portion of the day. Is that correct?
What?
Out of every 2 week period, your ex-husband, Brian, has the children for some portion of at least 6 days every 2 weeks.
Yes.
Is that correct? So
Yes.
in other words, he gets to spend time with them at this point, 6 days or portions of 6 days out of every 2 weeks, correct?
Yes.
And that would allow him to have physical contact with them portions of 6 days every 2 weeks, correct?
Yes.
And it would allow him to give them hugs and kisses and go for walks and play in the snow and do other things like that, portions of at least 6 days out of every 2 weeks, right?
No, I think it's 5. I'm sorry, I'm not sure. I'm not sure how you're getting 6 days.
Let's go through them together. Every other weekend, Friday, Saturday, and Sunday, right?
Yeah.
Every Wednesday, add 2 more on there, and alternate Mondays.
No.
That's what you testified. That's what you testified to earlier.
No, he gets 1 weekly visit a week. 1 week it's Wednesday, the other week it's Monday. If I have them for the weekend, then he has them on Monday night for a couple hours. If it's his weekend, he has them Wednesday night for a couple hours.
Okay, now I think you're changing your testimony. Then when you testified previously, you said every Wednesday and alternate Monday.
I'm sorry,
that's not what I remember, Mr. Falley.
I don't
What she just said is what I remembered on direct.
Okay, all right. So I apologize, then I heard you wrong, Emily, if that's what you testified to previously, but regardless, it's still 5 days then of every 2 weeks, is that correct?
Yes,
And your
technically.
move to Oklahoma is going to result in my client not having any physical contact with the children for months at a time. Fair statement?
Yes.
And in fact, I mean, if you've looked at a calendar, how many months may Brian go without physically seeing the children under your proposal?
Um, 3. If he has them in
And
August, it would be, well, maybe, no. I guess it kind of depends on how you count that. So 3 to 4.
okay, and you plan to just allow the children to have contact with their father via FaceTime for, let's just assume that 3 or 4 month period between August and November where they may see him at Thanksgiving. I don't even know if they, I mean, do you plan to give him every Thanksgiving break?
We haven't discussed that.
Okay, so if
In
he has the children,
Oklahoma, I will say this, in Oklahoma, unlike Michigan, there is a fall break at school. If that was something that he insisted on, that he could do, if he could take the time from work for, um, we could make that work I don't know about every year, but every other year.
so every other year then, if the court would allow you to move, Brian would go 3 or 4 months without physically seeing the children, correct?
Yes.
And your proposal is that the children would FaceTime with him, correct?
Well, he can call, he texts them now at night for bedtime.
Do you feel that that's the same quality of contact with your children as it is to be physically present with them?
I don't.
Okay.
I don't, but I
Um,
also,
okay, hold on. Yep, thank you. You answered my question. I appreciate it. So, and you've actually testified that Wesley is nonverbal. And so, I mean, while he can maybe look into a phone or a screen to look at his father, he isn't able to have that physical contact that's important with his father. Is that a fair statement?
that's a fair statement.
And at this point, it sounds like everything you plan to do in Oklahoma is speculative in terms of buying a house, getting a job, putting Wesley in a school. At this point, all you've done is looked into it, correct?
Yes.
And isn't it a fair statement that generally speaking, well, first of all, what's your current income at Grass Lake?
Um, just under 50,000.
And so, isn't it a fair statement, you've had to have looked at this, that teachers in Michigan generally make more than teachers in Oklahoma?
That was true when we moved here. I would not say that that's a true statement now.
Okay.
Certainly not for
Well,
grass.
assuming that your computer that you typed in numbers on is correct, it sounds like your income there is going to be pretty darn similar to your income here. Fair?
Yeah. Yes.
Okay. And you actually discussed with your attorney, who then discussed with me, your possibility of moving to Oklahoma at the time the judgment of divorce was entered, correct?
I'm sorry. I missed some of that.
You discussed or considered moving to Oklahoma or attempting to move to Oklahoma at the time the judgment of divorce was entered. Is that correct?
It was something that I considered then, but I didn't think that it would be realistic then.
And so was it your intent then to simply enter into a judgment of divorce, have your court-ordered parenting time and Mr. Dental, Brian, to have his court-ordered parenting time for a year, and then just try to take advantage of the language in the judgment to move out of state?
No, it was not.
You filed bankruptcy in the last year, is that correct?
It is.
Is this the first time you filed bankruptcy?
It is.
Do you know if Brian has ever filed for bankruptcy?
He has not.
So you're making right now roughly $50,000 per year. and you're getting another $1,500 per month between child support being paid to you by my client, as well as your $1,200 subsidy from Oklahoma, correct?
Yes.
So between your employment income, the child support, and the subsidy, you're making almost $70,000 per year. Fair statement?
Sure. Before taxes, yes.
I understand. So why were you required to file bankruptcy when you make well over what would be the median income in Michigan and the entire United States?
Well, in a divorce, I kept the majority of the debt, over $45,000 worth of credit card debt, and I couldn't afford to do that and keep the house and pay the bills. Which I will say this, Brian knew that going in. Bankruptcy was something that we discussed before we were divorced.
Okay, and you've lived in Michigan now with the children for approximately 6 years, correct?
Yes.
How do you feel Wesley has done at Lyle Torrent? Do you feel like the school has done him well and he's learned while he's been there?
I do. I think Lyle Torrent has been a good fit for him.
How about Lacey at Grass Lake? How's she doing in school?
I think she's doing great this year. She's got a good teacher this year. Yeah.
And in fact, I mean, you would agree Grass Lake's a very good school district, correct?
It is. And I enjoy working there.
And there's no concern, or you haven't, I mean, there's no threat of you losing your job currently here. Is that correct?
No.
Okay, so your main desire, obviously, to move to Oklahoma is more of a want than a need. Fair statement?
I don't know that I would agree to that.
Back to characterization, she's testified at length the need because of Mr. Dental's non-involvement and not necessarily a want.
I don't know
I
that
think
that's a valid objection.
This is cross-examination. I'm going to allow the question.
Thank you, Your Honor. And Ms.
I
Dental,
think she answered it though.
Yeah.
In the negative.
Thank you. Ms. Dental, how active are you physically with the children when they're with you?
Well, we play. I mean, we play outside, we play inside, we play games. Wesley likes tickles, a lot of tickles, often deep pressure.
Anything else?
Are you looking for something in particular? I feel like we do regular things. We play outside. We have a large backyard. There's trampoline, there's a swing, there's places to dig, which there happens often. Yeah.
Kids spend a lot of time on tablets at your residence, don't they?
No, they don't. Wesley was on his tablet often. About a year ago, though, with all that was going on, he broke a couple tablets. And so he doesn't get a tablet in home anymore. He has a tablet when we go places because it helps with transportation. On the bus, they were having a problem with him getting out of his unbuckling and getting out of his chair. So he has the tablet when he's on the bus going from one place to another. If we go somewhere, he has his tablet, but at home, he no longer has his tablet. Lacey has a tablet, but she's not on it very much. No, I wouldn't say they're on them often, a lot.
Bear with me just for a minute. Now, you've testified that Brian has a lot of extended family here in the Jackson area, fair statement?
Yes,
And you have a lot of extended family in Oklahoma, correct?
yes,
So essentially, if you moved to Oklahoma, you'd be from a extended family perspective, you'd be, or the kids would be in the same scenario or situation there as they would be here, correct?
Well, I don't know that I would agree to that because my parents got vaccinated so that my kids could be with them. Brian's parents are vaccinated, but they're still not allowed in their home. I'm not saying that his parents aren't good grandparents, but I feel like my kids have a more of attachment to mine. The moment Brian moved out, Lacey started asking if we were moving to Oklahoma. My answer then was no, because I didn't think that it was a possibility. I had a lot of debt. I hadn't declared bankruptcy. There was a lot going on. And I had no plans, honestly, to move back to Oklahoma.
The kids in any extracurricular activities at the current time?
Yes, Lacey, they just now started Girls on the Runabout through mid-April. I asked Brian if he could pick her up after a week or so because it was on his way back from work. He'd shown interest in that because he's done cross country running before. So he picks her up and brings her home from that. But I enrolled her. I paid for it. I found the activity.
You and Brian have joint legal custody, correct?
Yes.
Do you inform him of these extracurricular activities before you enroll the children, or specifically Lacey, or do you just do it on your own?
I asked him if it was okay. I did last year. She wanted to do Girl Scouts, and I was not going to do it last school year. And then all her friends were in Girl Scouts, and so I signed her up and told him afterwards. But I didn't ask for him to help with pick up or drop off. It was right after school. And I apologized because he got really upset that I enrolled her in that without asking him first. So I made sure with Girls on the Run to ask him first. I kind of knew he would be okay with it because it's running, and that's one of his interest areas, which is part of why I encouraged her to do it, because he is interested in running, and I knew he would be interested in that with her.
And he actually took part in her Girl Scouts last year as well, correct?
Yes, I asked him if he wanted to do the go-kart derby, and he said yes. So I signed him up and purchased the cart and told him when and where for the go-kart derby thing. And he participated in that activity. They never did get to have a derby. That part got canceled, but they did decorate the cart together.
And if Lacey were to be in Girls on the Run or something similar in Oklahoma, or Girl Scouts, or if he gets into band or softball or volleyball or anything along those lines, it would be impossible for Brian to watch those events other than possibly on a tablet, correct?
Yep. Yes. Sorry.
Given Wesley's current, diagnosis with what sounds to be pretty significant or severe autism spectrum disorder, is there any likelihood or chance that he would be involved in some extracurricular activities?
It's possible. It's possible, but I'm not seeing an interest of him in anything besides jumping on a trampoline and swinging on a swing. He does like to run for it, so maybe something someday, but I don't know what that would be.
Have you ever looked into Special Olympics for him?
We talked about it. For years we talked about it, but I think Brian looked into it maybe this last month or so, but nothing's come of that yet.
Are you open to that or not?
If it's something that we don't have to fight Wesley to participate in, I would be open in that. But again, I don't know.
You would agree that Mr. Dental's, Brian's family, had more significant contact with the children before the pandemic hit last March. Fair statement?
That is a fair statement, especially since he was living with his parents.
And assuming, hopefully, things get back to more normal times here in the near future, couldn't you assume that the time spent with his extended family would then again increase after beyond the pandemic?
Honestly, I assumed that would increase after they had their vaccinations. So I would assume so, but
Sounds like you took the kids last summer to Oklahoma to see your extended family. Do you do any other vacations with them? Do you go camping? Do you do anything else with the children?
well, since we've been divorced, it's just been COVID, so we haven't. This is the only summer since we got divorced, which we haven't, but we didn't really do that before either. Wesley is, I wouldn't trust to take Wesley camping in an environment that wasn't my backyard by myself, just because he does run. So we haven't done the only thing that they haven't done this last summer that they would normally do previous to the divorce was go to the cabin in the UP. All of our vacations beforehand were visiting family or Brian's family's cabin in the Upper Peninsula.
Would you be surprised to know that Wesley does not need to sleep with his father when he's with him? As you've testified, he always needs to be touching you.
No, because I understand that he doesn't. He's also in a confined space, in a twin-sized bed in a little compartment. So it's a different format than what he does here at home.
Does Brian go to the children's school conferences?
Well, we haven't gone. He missed Lacey's IEP. I understand he emailed. I don't know if he went to her teacher's conference, and he was at Wesley's IEP. I had to send him the link again so that he would be able to be there. But yeah, and that was when we discovered they had the wrong email address.
Okay, and that's been rectified now, correct? As far
Yeah,
as
a couple weeks ago.
Historically, has from the time that the kids started school, has Brian been involved in their parent-teacher conferences and concerts and other events at school?
Yes.
Does he take them trick-or-treating on Halloween?
We all did. Yes.
So he did too, right?
Yeah.
And again, he moved to Oklahoma based on your proposed parenting time schedule. He would have, I think, precisely 0 Halloweens with the children, correct?
Correct.
What's the normal school year, start to finish in Oklahoma? I know sometimes in the South or the West, it's a bit different than in Michigan. For the Tulsa schools, if you know, when does school start and when does it let out for the year?
I know that their start date they just posted next year's calendar. Their start date for next year is August the 19th, which is about a week before see Grass Lake posted their calendar this morning, so I don't have it memorized yet, but I think it's a week before Grass Lake starts next year. And it looks like Tulsa Public is scheduled to get out right before Memorial Day, but if they have any snow days, that will change. And typically they have to go a couple days longer. After teaching there 10 years, I don't think I've ever had a year where we actually got out on the day that we were scheduled to get out.
So it sounds like, just generally speaking, if you have no snow days down there, school lets out for the summer maybe about 2 weeks earlier than here and starts a week earlier there than here as well.
Starts a week earlier. It gets out about a week and a half because Grass Lake will get out midweek next year.
How close are Wesley and Lacey with their cousin, which would be my client's sisters?
Wesley, I would say not at all. As far as I know, he isn't involved in their activities. Lacey is. She FaceTimes them at least once a month, possibly more. I know that sometimes when they're there, they do activities together, but they aren't always there. They weren't there over the weekend last weekend, so they didn't do anything last weekend. But I would say fairly close. Yeah.
Based on your experience when you were living with Brian and he was assisting with childcare and rearing your children, how would you describe his parenting style? Is he hands-on? Is he hands-off? How would you describe that?
I did most of the parenting, I feel like. I feel like he was rather hands-off with that. I feel like he wasn't really sure always how to deal with them, so I was the one who dealt with most of that.
Okay. Well, what things did he do to assist you when you were together?
With parenting, with discipline?
With parenting in general?
Well, for most of the time we were married, he worked third shift or second shift. So he would be help on the weekends. But during the week, there wasn't as much. He often got frustrated. I feel like that I was doing too much with the kids and not enough with him. He plays with them really well.
What types of things would he do when he would play with the kids?
Play outside on the trampoline, swing on the swing, play with the ball in the yard. Pretty much the same thing that I do with him now.
Did you ever contact my client's extended family directly to ask them for assistance with the children, or did you only do try to contact them through Brian?
I asked him because they were his family.
Okay, so I think the answer there is
That
you
would be
did
no.
not try to
Yeah.
contact them.
No,
Correct.
because they were his family.
Okay. Why didn't you just try to reach out to them directly?
Because they were his family. I mean, I felt like if he was going to, I felt like I shouldn't have to do all the work. I felt like if we were going to do stuff together, that he needed to do some too. And if we needed help for the kids, he could ask his family. I asked everybody else. So I felt like he could ask his family.
I'm sorry, but I think over the last year you said Brian's only taken one extra day of parenting time on a Monday, I think, where you had offered it. Is that correct?
As far as I know, he did take a couple days off when Wesley was virtual, but yeah.
Any other times you can think of where he had extra parenting time that's not in the current court order?
No.
How would you describe the children's relationship with their father? Are they close? How do they show each other love and affection, if you know?
Well, in the last 6 months or so, Wesley cries every time Brian comes to pick them up. But I know that so I would say I know, but I don't know what he's thinking. But every time Brian comes, he cries. It's not a lot, but he does cry. Lacey is very outgoing with her show of affection. She loves, she kisses, she hugs. She enjoys making a big show of how much she loves people. I know she's attached to him, but she's also said that she wants to move to Oklahoma. That was her request.
Okay, Your Honor, I'd ask that portion of the response be stricken because it's non-responsive. And
It was not.
Hearsay.
It was non-responsive. I'll grant that request.
Thank you, Your Honor. Emily, is Wesley potty trained?
No.
Do you work with him on that?
Yes, I do.
How?
So we go sit on the potty, and I mean, the same thing you do with every child who's potty trained. We've talked to his teacher about it. At this point, it is just him choosing to not take the time to go potty. So once we're in summer break, I can't do it when we're in school because we're not home for a whole day. We're going to go without diapers again and give this a shot. But yeah, he's getting dressed himself better than he was. But he still doesn't feel the need to go potty on the potty.
Have you sought any professional assistance with that at all in order to try to accomplish that and get that moving forward?
Well, I've talked to his teachers and his therapist about it at school. Yes.
Do they work with him at school on that as well?
They do. Part of this year's this might not be appropriate to say, but part of this year's being off schedule has really hurt that front. Before we went to last year at the end of the school year, he was doing really good about going nearly all day with a dry diaper. But when we cut short in March, that progress also kind of when he got off his regular routine, it threw that into a.
When you schedule medical appointments for the kids, do you inform Brian of those medical appointments?
Yes, I do. Lacey has a standing 3-month med check. I try to tell him right when we make it, but sometimes I don't get it the very first day when we walk out the door, but I do let him know when they are.
Have there been times where you let him know just a day or two before?
No, there have been times when I've reminded him a day or two before, but I text him or let him know verbally that there is when it's going to be. And he has quit going to Lacey's med checks when he made it clear he couldn't take time off work. I don't expect him to be at her med checks, but I always let him know when they are. Yes.
And isn't it a fair statement that the majority of the parenting time that Brian has is not during what would be normal dental or medical business hours, correct?
Yes.
So you would, generally speaking, be the one to schedule them because they fall on your parenting time, correct?
I would, although he has managed to schedule one that I've asked him not to.
Why? Why'd you ask him not to?
So we, after Wesley's autism spectrum testing, they asked us if we would be interested in doing ongoing blood donation for genetic testing. It's not for Wesley necessarily, it's for research. And that letter came last year. I told Brian about it. I told him that I didn't want to do it because it would be difficult. 3 years ago when we got Wesley tested, it took 3 of us to hold him down to take his blood for diagnosis. This is not diagnosis, it's research for the greater good, which I appreciate. But I didn't feel like Wesley needed to go through that. And honestly, this year, I'm not willing to wrestle a 75-pound 8-year-old to draw blood for something that won't benefit him directly. Brian disagreed, so he scheduled that appointment. He forgot. They called me as a reminder. He had scheduled the wrong day off because it was during COVID. I encouraged him to not go. He rescheduled, and they called me to remind me of the appointment. He knew when it was, but he had the wrong day again. And so I think he's rescheduled it for July, but I've continued to ask him to not schedule that appointment. But for both of those appointments, he didn't have the correct dates or forgot about them or didn't have the right day off.
When is that appointment currently scheduled?
I'd have to look at the calendar unless it's on my phone, but it's mid to late July.
Where is that located?
At Mott's.
In Ann Arbor?
Yes.
In your motion, you indicated that domestic violence was not an issue in this case, correct?
Yes.
And I apologize. What was the name of the school in Oklahoma you were talking about sending Wesley to? Was it Town and Country?
Town and Country. Yes.
Okay. How does that compare to Lyle Torrent based on what you have looked at about Town and Country?
It seems very comparable. I would say because from what I've seen on their website, they have a little bit more therapy involved in theirs, but I don't know that it would be. It looks pretty equal.
Similar, right? From what you can tell. How far have you gotten with the neighbor in this discussion about purchasing her home? Have you talked about a mortgage, a land contract, a rent with an option? What have you discussed with that?
They were in town last weekend. My mom spoke to them. They said they were interested in selling.
All right, hold on. So have you talked to them at all?
No, I have not because I don't know if I'm moving yet.
Okay. Isn't it true that with your bankruptcy, you may have a bit of a problem getting financing through a bank?
I may. My parents have agreed to co-sign with me, which should help offset that.
Have you, and you may have already testified this, but have you submitted your application already to and a resume to Tulsa schools?
I did. I
How'd
sent
you
it
do-
in Monday.
I'm sorry, what day?
I sent it Monday.
So 2 days ago, Monday?
Yes.
And you said you were still waiting on your references, correct?
As far as I know, I don't know. I haven't talked to all 5 of them to know if they've filled out the automated form or not.
Have you looked into the cost of airfare between Tulsa and Detroit?
Yes, I have.
And you think
Driving would probably be my option. It would just depend. Sometimes it's less, sometimes it's more. It's about $1,200 for a round trip flight for 3 people. So driving is probably going to be my choice.
Tulsa to the Jackson area is what, about 15 hours?
Driving?
Yes.
13.
13 hours?
Mm-hmm.
How do the children do in a car for, generally speaking? Have the children ever driven 13 hours in the car before?
No, and I don't plan on ever putting them in a vehicle for 13 hours. We stop at the same hotel when we go back and forth in Illinois and Effingham, and the kids love it because there's a swimming pool that they get to swim in. So they do
How many
really
hours?
good.
Okay, is that about halfway? Is that about 6.5 hours?
It's about an hour short of being halfway, with the benefit being on the Michigan side.
And if you were to be allowed to move to Oklahoma and you decide to drive rather than fly, the children would need to do this drive from Oklahoma to Michigan a number of times per year, correct? 8 times possibly?
Yep. I think we would probably fly occasionally. I don't know that we would all enjoy doing all that driving, but I couldn't afford to fly every time.
And it sounds like you have talked to a friend about doctors and dentists in the Tulsa area, but you don't have the children set up or scheduled with either of those types of professionals at this point, correct?
Well, I can't switch their Medicare over to Oklahoma until I know that we're moving. And without that, I can't set up either one of those. Although we do have a doctor that they were attending previously that I was planning on them going back to. Their original pediatrician.
This was when they were infants then, right, in Oklahoma?
Yeah, Lacey was 3, so they were younger, yes. But he's still their pediatrician. He's still a pediatrician. They're still of age.
How's your relationship with my client?
My relationship with him is difficult.
No, with your client, with my client, with Brian's extended family.
Oh, with his extended family. Was also interesting. I never really felt part of their family. When I did talk to his sister about us having marital issues, her response was, I hope that doesn't happen. I really like you. She didn't feel comfortable contacting me to see if we could still be friends after the divorce. She had to ask Brian about that first.
So it sounds like your relationship with Brian's extended family is strained at best, correct?
I would say I don't know that it's strained. I just don't think that there really is one.
Thank you, Emily. I don't have any further questions.
Let's take about a 10-minute break here.
Your Honor, I'm sorry. One thing, I didn't mean to interrupt the court. We had spoken, emailed the court. I've got bankruptcy hearings that I pushed to 11:30. They're over the phone. The only problem is I can't tell you. I've only got a couple questions for Ms. Dental, just follow up. What I would ask the court to consider is maybe if we could break after my redirect and maybe come back at 1. And I hate screwing your schedule up, Your Honor, but I also don't want to, I can't say exactly when I'm going to get called in for the bankruptcy because I don't know how many hearings they've got this morning. And I don't want to tell you I'll be back at 10 to noon and then be late.
I'm not available this afternoon, so we'll have to find another day to finish up.
Okay. Well, could I finish the redirect, Your Honor, of Miss Dental?
Sure.
Real quick. I promise to take 2 minutes, Your Honor. Ms. Dental, just a couple quick questions. Mr. Fowler, he was asking you about having things in place in the proposed move to Tulsa, right?
Yes.
And you don't have everything in place because you're not sure about the move.
Right.
But you're very familiar with Tulsa.
Yes.
You've lived there most of your life.
Yes.
You were a teacher there for 10 years before you moved to Michigan?
Yes.
So you were a teacher for 10 years in the very school district you intend to return to?
Yes.
They're aware of your work history?
Yes.
And you're aware of what to expect when you get there?
Yes. When I contacted my friend that still works there, she immediately got on the phone and told me that I needed to put in my application. She had 2 principals she was going to talk to about placement there.
Not only do you have a bachelor's degree, you have a master's degree.
I do.
Any question in your mind that you're going to have any difficult whatsoever getting a job as a teacher in Tulsa?
No.
He also asked you regarding the home, whether you'll be able to purchase the home next to your parents.
Yes.
And you're not sure whether you'll be able to do that or not.
I don't know. No.
How much equity do you have in your home that you're living in now?
Currently, there's about $50,000 equity.
And you received the home in the judgment.
Yes.
So all the equity you received from the sale of that home would be able to be used to purchase a home in Tulsa.
Yes.
You've lived in Tulsa most of your life, so I assume you're familiar with the good parts of town and the bad parts of town.
Very much. Yes.
Any question in your mind? At first, you're going to live with your parents when you first get there. How many bedrooms do they have?
They have 3.
So would the children share a bedroom?
I'd
Or would I'd be with you because of his autism?
We would probably all share a bedroom at first because Lacey always wants us to all sleep together.
Okay.
Last night she wanted us to all sleep together, so we did. So we'll probably do that for a while.
Any doubt in your mind that you'll be able to find some kind of suitable housing in an area, a location that is comfortable for your children?
No.
Any doubt that if the court grants you the ability to make the move, that you'd be able to put that in place quickly?
No.
The last thing I'm going to ask you is, Mr. Falley had asked you if you had contemplated moving back to Oklahoma when the judgment of divorce entered in March of 2020. Do you remember him asking you that?
Yes.
And while you wanted to move back, you didn't think it was possible?
No.
When you got divorced, did you also think that Mr. Dental would be more involved in assisting you with raising these children?
I did. I never would have imagined that I had to call begging and crying to get help with childcare, especially this year.
I have no further.
All right, well, since I do need to take a break, and that puts just right into your bankruptcy hearings, I guess we're gonna have to call it quits for today. I'll have Dawn get with you to find a date to get you back in as soon as possible so that we can complete the testimony.
And I'm sorry for that, Your Honor. It's just I'm trying to juggle it, and it's hard for me to move those bankruptcy hearings around.
I get that, no problem.
All right. Thank you, Your
Thank you,
Honor.
Your Honor.